Hello, everybody. Welcome and congratulations to my new book. Um, hey, have a look at my hands here and please type in the chat the name of your name and location of your local bookstore. And if you have a copy of the book, have it nearby because we're going to do a screenshot of a bunch of us holding up our books at the end. I'm going to wait until 2 minutes after the hour to get started because people tend to jump on for about 2 minutes. Bennington Bookshop, mine is coming later today. Yes, by the way, I've shipped everyone's order except for the ones that came in the last 5 days. I had to order more copies and they're coming tomorrow. So thank you to everyone who's ordered a copy from me. Tattered Cover, Boulder Bookstore. Lots, it's fun to see all of these. Broadside Books in Northampton, Orca Books in Washington. Oh, Belgium, I saw. So this is super exciting. We have a network of bookstores around the world, Riverbend Bookshop in West Hartford, Connecticut. So yeah, type in the chat the name of your local bookstore and where it's located. And then if you have a copy of the book, grab it. So we'll do a screenshot at the end. And I'm just waiting a few more seconds. I'm going to get started at 2 after. There it goes. Here we are at 2 minutes after the hour. All right. So I want to welcome all of you and thank you for being here. I mentioned just a second ago that if you've ordered a copy of the book from me, I've shipped everything except for the ones that came in the last couple of days. So if it hasn't arrived already, it should be arriving. And today we are celebrating Weaving with Paper, which is available today in bookstores. I just want to go over the agenda real quick. This is a 90-minute event, and I want you to know what I have planned. We'll enjoy a reading by Beth Kephart, who I will introduce in a moment, and then Beth and I will have a 10-minute conversation about books, weaving, and life. I will give a 15-minute PowerPoint presentation about the book and tell you where you can find it if you haven't already. I'll show you a few actual items, papers, weavings, and that special weaving tool. We'll create our woven paper lanterns, and then we'll have a giveaway. I have 3 prizes, and you have to be present to win, so stick around if you're interested in that. And then we'll take a few snapshots of your wonderful lanterns and everyone holding their book. And finally, I will stay on at the end for 15 minutes or so for anyone who wants to hang out for an after party. A few housekeeping items. Please stay muted with your video off. We have a lot of people here. If you have a question at any time, type it into the chat. I have my friend Lori here who will be watching that and monitoring the chat. And then there is a block of links in the chat with some links to resources that I will be mentioning. I will also send a follow-up email with the recording to all of you, and you will get those links again. So don't worry too much unless you need them right away. Okay, so let's take away this, Lori. Take away my hands and just me now. All right, so I have to thank a few people at the beginning here. Big thank you to my family who put up with me and support me on a day-to-day basis. And then to everyone at Story Publishing, who I've worked with since 1999, when my first book, Paper Making with Plants, was published. I especially want to thank Deborah Balmuth, who's recently retired, but she's the one who discovered me in 1998. I want to thank Kristen Hewitt, my project editor, for her wordsmithing and for keeping me on task and staying calm and collected through the editing process. I want to thank Mars Valabi, who did the photography, amazing pictures in this book, Brenda Lago, who did the design, And yeah, she's the star with the look of the book. And I want to thank Ali Monsi, Emma Sector, and the whole publicity team for getting the book out into the world. And there are many other people at involved in this publishing process who work tirelessly behind the scenes. Thank you to all of you. I want to thank the more than 50 artists who are featured in this book who shared their weavings with me. And there are a few specific acknowledgments on page 217 in the book if you want to read those on your own. Okay, and now I'd like to introduce Beth Kephart. Hi, Beth. So Beth Kephart, a National Book Award finalist, is the award-winning author of some 40 books in multiple genres, including the historical novel Tomorrow Will Bring Sunday's News, A Philadelphia Story, and My Life in Paper, Adventures in Ephemera. That's how I met Beth, through that book, which was recently shortlisted for the 2025 Pattis Family Foundation Creative Arts Book Award. Her long essay, Conversations with Women in Blue, just won the 2025 Porch Creative Nonfiction Prize. Beth is the author, artist of the bestseller Substack, The Hush and the Howl. Congratulations, Beth.
Helen, the congratulations is all yours. This is so exciting. I have been following Helen for a long time. Anybody who touches on paper has to know Helen. She has given keynotes that matter. She's traveled all over the world with her various communities, learning about everything having to do with paper, paper fashion. She teaches paper making. And so she's this multi-talented person. And Weaving with Paper is an outstanding book. I had the opportunity, I think a year or maybe 2 years ago, to do 30 days of weaving with Helen and her community. I learned a lot. I still use some of those techniques in some of the art that I make. And so it's a real privilege to be here. I was really felt graced when Helen asked me to come. She also asked me to read, and I've tried to find something that's like 3 paragraphs long for the beginning and at the end, so don't think it's going to last too long. I am going to read from My Life in Paper, and what you need to know is that it is a book celebrating paper and how it holds our lives and doesn't, but it also is a book in conversation with Dard Hunter. And those of you who are here who are paper aficionados will know that Dard Hunter is the man who traveled 1 million miles in search of paper and the way that it was made in all the various cultures around the world. So when I say the word Dard in what you're going to hear here, that's him. I talk to him throughout this book. But right now, I'm just going to read a page, less than a page, and I'm thinking about paper, a sheet of paper, drying in the sun, left to rain, to fingerprints, to marginalia, to crackle bend defacement, the stranger's gaze, the metal teeth of the public shudder. The Psalm 23 that was torn off by a breeze and left to tumble between cemetery stones like an uprooted weed. The will she will refuse to read, the math on the back of the envelope they saved. The card he wrote but never sent, reading his own apology back to himself years later, years too late. The teacher's note on the homework paper, the father's scribbled final wish on the bank check. All these elements of paper, all these ways it holds us. We are our own ephemera, and you wished to be paper's purest Dard. Noble, you said, craft. You had no use for, in fact, disdained the paper made by the faceless churn and power. You would have been content, you write, never to see again one of those long, ponderous, stamina, dragon-like machines emitting from its great jaws the streams of paper that are thought necessary to our very existence. But the dragon-like machines persist in this abundantly impure age, and paper abounds in all its forms, and it is because of you, Dard, that I've set out on my own strange fibrous adventure to find myself in the remains of paper, to find my yearning new, to find out what paper means and what I might mean if I have more time, if I claim it. The what I've starred, the ifs and onlys, the dimensions of our lives that will perpetually elude us. So as you can tell, Dar didn't like any machine-made paper. It was all about the handmade. And that's what Helen brings to us in what she does. As I said, she teaches how to make handmade paper here with woven paper. Sometimes handmade paper is used, sometimes machine made. But what we have when we finish with Helen is something that is ours, something that holds our hands, our intentions, the way we saw color that day or light. So it's really going to be a lot of fun for those of you who haven't gotten a chance yet to weave with Helen to do that. Helen, I am ready to have a conversation with you.
Yeah. Okay. Let's
All
do it.
righty.
Thank you for your
So,
wonderful words.
uh, although your first exposure to paper weaving came, Helen, like it does to so many of us, we remember kindergarten or first grade and those chunky, thick strips that we wove together. It was a trip that you took to Japan that changed your way of thinking about form and light and structure. Can you share that experience in Japan and light? Light is something we're going to work towards at the end of this program with you today. What is it about light and paper that you love that intrigues you?
Yeah. Well, you were just talking about all of the ways that we hold paper and paper holds us. And I was thinking about light and, I have a really early memory from childhood of walking, not walking, being in the back of my car. We would drive to New Mexico where my father did research every summer, and we would leave really early in the morning. And I grew up in a small town in Texas. And I remember looking out of the car windows maybe at 4 in the morning when we hit a big city and just being mesmerized by all of the lights
Mm,
and even the lights along the reflectors along the roads. And so light has been special to me for
mm,
a long time. And then, yes, in Japan, I stayed in an inn with my mother. I was visiting Japan. My father was working over there. My mom and I went for 2 weeks. This was like 1988. And I was interested in architecture. I thought I might be an architect. So there's something about space also. And I have this strong memory feeling of the light filtering through the shoji screens in this traditional inn that we stayed in. And I was thinking about this morning. I couldn't describe the room to you now. It was more the feeling, right? I
mm.
can't see those shoji screens anymore, but I can feel being in the room.
And it is because of Helen's um, bedazzlement by light, we'll say, that she innovated something that she's going to be teaching you later today. And only those who work with Helen or read her book will get the chance to work with windows, and you'll see what Helen means by that later. So I think it's always interesting how childhood influences and memories are the thing that propel us towards what is ours, what is original to us, and
Mhm.
windows and light is original to you. So you began, as you know, teaching online in 2017, and then you created this Weave Through Winter. I teach writing, and some of my writing friends are here with you today. And it's really hard to find the words so often for something that is, for me, intuitive. It's in my body. It is the rhythm, the way something sounds when something needs to be shortened, when it needs to be embellished. Um, but there's something about working with paper that's also intuitive, but you can't be intuitive when you're putting a book together like weaving with paper. You have to give us the dimensions of paper and how you cut it and, how your strips should work. And this book is magnificent because we're never left. I have some sort of learning dyslexia, like a learning problem, and I can't read other craft books. I'm like, I give up. I'll figure. This morning I was marbling paper. I did that all on my own. Nobody's going to ever teach me that. But somehow you have the capacity to take something that could be considered intuitive and give us, the explicit while giving us room to make it our own. The making it our own is a big part of this book because, as you said, you have the work of some of your students here. Here's an example of what you might do with this, is what you're doing throughout the book. How do you, Helen, take something that's intuitive and make it as precise as you do?
Well, like anything, it takes practice, okay? And my life has literally unfolded like a sheet of paper. I never thought I would write a book. I got invited to write my first book. I never envisioned teaching. I remember having one high school teacher who just made me think, I never want to do that. But things unfolded, and I realized when you find your subject, your passion, um, you can do it. And it's fun and it's interesting and intriguing. There's something new to learn all the time. So, writing instructions, I mean, I don't have training in writing instructions, but I love figuring out how things are made and how they're done. And I have just honed that over the years. My first books were how to make paper, and I remember being overwhelmed because I interviewed lots of colleagues. How do you beat your pulp? How do you cook your pulp? And they all gave me different answers. And I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to write a book about this? But I decided to include lots of different examples. That was the way to do that. Um, and I much prefer writing more precise examples like how to weave. And I have taught this weaving class, and I'm going to tell a little bit more of the story of my weaving journey. I've been doing this for a long time. So over the years, I've really honed and learned lots from my students and been able to distill things down. And yeah, I chose certain weavings that I thought illustrated techniques and made a weaving. And then I worked backwards, making the weaving again. How did I do that? Writing the instructions, maybe having the luxury of having someone test those instructions, try weaving it, just to get them as perfect as possible.
And one of the things that you really relish is what you learn from your students. You have a remarkable set of students. I mean, these are sometimes people who have been in gallery shows, people who have innovated on their own, and they all keep coming back to you because, first of all, they love the daily practice, and it is fun for them to be in dialogue with others. And I think that that's another thing about you as a teacher is you build community. And you never say, I have the only way and your piece has to look like mine. You're like, here are the techniques, see what you want to do with them. Here's the techniques, and here is sort of an idea or a prompt, and bring the bird and the strip weaving together and see what happens. So with that in mind, what are some of those happy moments, those experiences that you've had while teaching where you're like, oh, wow, I just learned something new in the moment of teaching?
Yeah, I'm thinking back to really early, like as I said, you hone your practice over the years, right? And I remember I taught how to make a woven paper lampshade as a 1 day workshop really early on. And that was like too much for 1 day. That could have been a week, right? We did it and I achieved it, but like we were binding onto rings and doing the weaving. And so I've learned so much about teaching, just the practical at what fits into a time frame, how much do you need to teach. And then I have two examples of like really cool things that have happened from teaching weaving. One was a student who didn't understand my instructions. So my instructions aren't perfect for everyone. And I think everyone's different in how they learn and absorb instructions. Even me, when you were talking about the marbling, I can remember origami books that just I couldn't understand. So, anyways, I taught how to cut windows, and we'll be doing that during the workshop here. And this student didn't understand it, or she thought she did though. So she cut windows on the side of her strips. And this is a little abstract to you who haven't done this, but she invented a new technique. It was so exciting. It looked really cool.
Wow.
And then another one, also with the window cutting, is Karen Krieger. I think she's here. I saw her name. Karen started slipping other papers between the layers. and came up with a whole nother technique. And I have a slide of that to show you.
I love doing that. Um, One of the things about this book, it's no mere how-to. It is also a gallery of beautiful things that both Helen's students beautifully do and well-known artists like Holly Chaston and Julie von der Vellen. And I love these. It's almost I don't know how anybody would achieve what any of these artists do, but the fact that they are in this book, it's almost like saying, there are all these dimensions that you can work in, and ultimately it can become fine art, or ultimately you can take urban trash and weave it together and be in, MoMA or something like that. I don't know if that one particular is in MoMA. The other thing that Helen has, if anyone here doesn't know this, is her Sunday paper blog. And Helen curates everything that's going on in paper around the world. I mean, any exhibit, any new book, and then she also often interviews paper artists. So it really is I don't know anybody like Helen working in the field of paper and having written my life in paper and traveled to Dart Hunter's home in Chillicothe, Ohio, and traveled to the museum in Georgia and all the places that paper lives. Helen is always standing central. And I wonder, Helen, any techniques or secrets to how you find and curate all these wonderful bits of paper news?
Yeah. Well, I've been doing this a long time, so I know a lot of people just through doing that. Google Alerts is one concrete tip. So I have some Google Alerts set to paper making. I can't remember what they are anymore. Paper crafts. So I get emails every day telling me certain things. And I have to say, I used to read those a lot. Now I skim them, and sometimes I don't even need them because since I've been doing this so long, people who follow me now send me interesting
Hmm.
things, right? So I get emails from people. I also like to think I'm good at making friends. So if I see something I'm really intrigued with, I try to, I'm like, oh, I'd like to know them or like know more about their work. So I reach out to them. Some people that I interview on my podcast, I've met, others I haven't. It's just a cold call. Um, yeah.
Well, I'm going to ask you one more question to stick with our agenda. And I was going to talk about the beautiful design and making the right photographs, but you're going to go into this. So the last thing I'm going to ask you is when you travel, and boy, am I jealous because, follow Helen on Instagram. She'll show you her latest paper collection. She buys paper from the local artisans and all around the world. And she has quite the library of paper possibilities. But she also uses, and it's in the book, ephemera, family photos, magazine papers, maps, and book pages. So the last question for us before you start your presentation is, what are some of the most unusual paper items you or your students or other artists have used for weaving?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to talk about a 100-day project that I did in 2013. And so I did 100 weavings over 100 days, which required 200 papers. And I get bored. Someone else might weave the same paper for 200 days. That could be a really interesting thing, right? But I couldn't do that. So I decided, oh, I'm going to weave different papers every day, which sent me on a hunt. And so some of the most unusual were sandpaper. And I started seeing paper everywhere because I was doing a weaving every day, and paint swatches from the hardware store.
Okay.
And a letter from my father. My father started writing me a letter when the first time he was away from me. I was the first child. It was so touching. He gave it to me when I turned 21. I wove that as well.
You wove the original or a copy
No
of it?
copy.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you. It is 24 after. I'm gonna then I do have 1 minute for you to answer the question. What is the one most important thing you want our listeners today to know?
Oh, yeah. I want you to keep following your muse. You know, paper weaving has allowed me to do that in so many ways, exploring the material, integrating content from my life, and keeping a daily practice. And I'll
Okay,
elaborate on that in my PowerPoint.
perfect. Well, we are 25 after, and it's your turn.
Awesome. Thank
Take
you.
it away and take me away too.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm going to share my screen and, oh, but I have this picture, Beth. Did you want to say something about? So I wanted to share weaving because Beth has been, since she took my class, she's been integrating words with weaving, among many other things.
I will say, I think I'm still you can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Okay. This is my son's Christmas present very quickly. It is a book that I wrote called Wife, Daughter, Self, a Memoir and Essays. His favorite essay in there is called Ideas of Happiness. So I actually wanted to give him for Christmas elements of this. The we woven part started out as something very big. And then I just cut it and cut it to smaller and smaller. One of the things I like to do is to bisect a weave that I've made to make decorative edges, as you can see on the bottom, and to make words geometric shapes. So the idea, this is a weed, actually a very gorgeous weed that's growing up by the Devon Horse Show grounds down the street. And I wanted to show him growing up and growing away and still rooted, and then with his favorite essay that I've written. So that's this.
Beautiful. Thank you. Okay, this is so exciting, you guys. I got this photo from Susan Ruptash this morning. This is pub day, right? She went to her local bookstore in Toronto and picked up her copy of the book. So I'd love to receive photos from you guys like this, or just photos of the book, photos of your weavings. So feel free to send them to me. Let's begin with how this book came to be. It started about 30 years ago. From page 9 in the book. Sometime in my mid 20s, I recalled an early paper weaving from childhood, and I created 2 lamps with woven shades. I was surprised and disappointed when the result wasn't what I expected. The light blurred the over under weaving pattern so that the woven paper looked homogeneous when backlit. There were a couple of interesting effects, however. The slits, or gaps, between the woven segments did let light through, and the weaving looked different when the lamps were turned on, the papers blended, as opposed to when they were off. The papers had the familiar woven checkerboard pattern. Okay, sorry, it's not advancing. Oh, that's not good. Lori, can you stop the share and I'll try again? Sorry, guys. This sometimes happens to me with PowerPoint. Okay. I embarked on a quest to find a way to differentiate between those woven layers, and I came up with the idea of cutting windows in one of the layers, which resulted in the effect I was looking for. Here you see me cutting windows in the top left, and we will practice this when we make our own lanterns. The bottom right detail shows windows cut into just some of the woven sections, and the lantern, which is project number 24 in the book, has windows cut into all of the woven sections. Crikey. Sorry, guys. I can't get it to advance again. Any thoughts, Lori?
You're using all the,
Yeah,
the mouse, your arrow keys.
yeah.
Um,
Let me try a different arrow key. Okay. We moved to rural Colorado near Vail Ski Resort in 2012 from a city, Portland, Oregon, for my husband Ted's job in 2012. And I found myself having a hard time figuring out how to make the work transition. I decided to launch my own 100-day project, creating 100 weavings over the last 100 days of 2013. This was a challenge to myself, a call to action. As an artist, I found myself getting sidetracked with bookkeeping, marketing, writing grant proposals, you name it. The 100-day project gave me a focus to create something new daily, and it was rewarding in so many ways. It reignited a creative spark and allowed me to explore various papers. And as someone who doesn't like doing repetitive tasks, this daily practice propelled me to push the boundaries of paper weaving because I was determined to do something different each day. My weekly blog about the project even garnered unexpected attention and sales from my online community. Dang.
Um, I think, have you tried double clicking on the slide?
On the slide itself?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay, now I went too far.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. That 100 days was so amazing that I decided to turn it into an online class with Beth, which Beth mentioned. I launched Weave Through Winter in 2019, and it still takes place every February. And I shortened the length to 1 month instead of 100 days. And over the years, I've perfected the course and integrated ideas from others. One of those ideas was from my friend Lisa Merkin, who suggested adding daily prompts to help inspire the daily weavings. I'll talk more about prompts in a moment, but they gave the course a nice framework. And weaving daily in a group is inspirational. We share our daily weavings online, and they are so varied. Everyone uses different papers, different weaving structures, and if they choose to respond to the prompt, which is optional, there are so many interesting takes on the word of the day. By the way, Weave Through Winter is taking a place again in February, and we'll be weaving to the prompts in the book this year. And there's a link in the chat if you're interested, and I'll let you know when registration opens on January 1st. But back to the book. Chapter 1 contains a brief history where I surmise that paper weaving has its origins in basket weaving and in the work of Friedrich Froebel, a German educator in the early 19th century, who developed a set of gifts for children. The 14th gift was paper weaving. There's also a photo of a weaving by my father's cousin, Mary Balzer Budskirk, a mid-century modern American textile artist that hung in my childhood home. This weaving on page 23 incorporated sticks, mixed fibers, and variations in the weaving structure, and certainly influenced my interest in materials and weaving. Chapter 2 is all about tools and materials. I'll show you a few papers in my hands-on presentation after this, but let me read this excerpt from a recent review in Bookpage. This is a wonderfully detailed guide that takes readers from simple beginning exercises to more advanced artistic methods. Best of all, the primary materials are glue and paper, all sorts of paper. So the materials investment can be minimal. Start digging through your ephemera and recycling bins to embrace the fun of weaving with paper. I also go over some tools in the book, and there's some really cool optional tools like a skinny light box, a glue applicator, and a special weaving tool, which I'll show you. In chapter 3, you'll learn about techniques that apply to most paper weavings, from weaving fundamentals to methods for finishing off projects like gluing and trimming. You'll also explore a variety of weaving structures and discover how to integrate design principles into your weavings. I encourage you to begin by weaving simple strips, and as you can see here, I offer 10 design decisions that can influence the look of your weavings. In chapter 4, we dive into establishing a daily practice. And if this feels daunting, let me tell you that I personally keep an intermittent daily practice every February when I weave along with my class and Weave Through Winter. It gets better and better each year. It's like a daily practice annually, and I learn new things about myself and about paper weaving every time. I've included an entire chapter about how to keep a daily practice, the rewards and pitfalls. But since this is a book, you can create the weavings at any pace. I have a few daily practice and weaving stories integrated into the book. This is Janice McDonald, who has kept a collage diary since 2019, and she posts daily on Instagram. There is a snowball effect that can happen when you share your work. I'm telling you my story, how my 100-day project led to an online class, which led to this book. But Janice has gained attention from her Instagram posts, which have led to collaborations with other artists, invitations to speak about her work, and a feature in the London Times. Some of her collages are, oh no, wait, sorry. For Janice, though, it isn't the daily collage that is the most important thing. Some of them are good and some are failures. It's the process of creating daily that keeps her going and stimulates ideas for other projects. And the overall project, these chunky books that are filled with 365 collages each, are what hold value. And by the way, this is a collage story, but Janice has done a couple of paper weavings. So one picture of one of her paper weavings is in the book. So here's my hope that you'll use these projects in the book to use up part of your paper stash, to explore and invent new weaving structures, and to create an intermittent daily practice. The bulk of the book is these 30 projects, which could be completed over 30 days, or as I said, at your own pace. And here's a fun fact. In 2023, I used this same prompt list. So there are 30 weavings here, and I don't know if you can see, but there's a prompt underneath each of those pictures. The first one is recycle, the second one roots. And so when I got the contract to write this book later that same year, 2023, I decided to use that prompt list. And I designed these weavings for the book. I did not make them during Weave Through Winter. And they're designed so that you get to learn a variety of techniques as you work your way through the 30 projects. Each of the 30 projects is laid out like this. You're invited to explore a prompt and a technique. And for this weaving, the prompt is roots. Where are your roots? What makes you feel grounded? Or do you think of tree roots or a carrot? I wove a map of Texas and one of my baby pictures to respond to the prompt. Each project has step-by-step instructions, and these little warp and weft thumbnails, those little sketches you see vertically there, are show how the papers get cut in vertical and horizontal strips as a quick reference to how the weaving is created. Every project also has 2 example weavings, which you see here on the bottom right. These are weavings that I was able to find in that 2023 Weave Through Winter classroom online. I was able to go back and look at the photos and choose ones that I thought represented the prompts and could be featured in the book. And I want to say here that I have had so many amazing paper weavers in my online classes, and I want all of you, them, to know that putting together a book like this is a huge undertaking. And my idea to have 2 examples per project is a little insane because I had to get all of those weavings and we had to photograph all of those weavings and return them all, yada, yada. But it seemed the simplest way to approach this book was just to go to that one class year, use those prompts, and find the examples. But there's all this to say that there are many, many great weavings out there that didn't make it into the book. I'm just going to show you a couple of examples of weavings and responses to the prompts and techniques. This weaving is the first one in the book that requires a paper loom, which means one of the pieces of paper is not cut into pieces. Sarah Morgan explored an open weaving structure that showed off the image she was weaving into. I walk my dogs along the same route each morning and notice the way snow collected on a net in the ball field we passed by. The grid of the net reminded me of a weaving, so I took a photo and used that as a starting point for this weaving. And I chuckle every time I see Karen Hall's response to the prompt routine. By the way, brushing my teeth is a daily practice that I keep year-round. By simply pivoting your strips, you can get a completely different effect. Bev Frey is she's a Weave Through Winter participant, and she actually came up with the little diagramming idea that I showed earlier, the thumbnails, and she often weaves optical illusions. Believe it or not, all of the strips in this weaving are straight. There are no curves. Once I started cutting windows, and we'll be doing that in just a minute, I started having ideas for variations. What about windows that open and close or door flaps? And Karen Krieger, who I mentioned earlier with that in the conversation with Beth, has participated in Weave Through Winter several times and came up with this clever idea of slipping papers behind those windows in between the warp and weft papers. Her sculpture that we see here involved creating several flat weavings, cutting windows, slipping inserts behind the windows, and hand stitching around the windows and between each woven section. Then the flat weavings were stitched together and transformed into this three-dimensional paint bucket. This piece illustrates the churning emotions that rippled through the world during COVID-19. So these are all examples that are in the book. Triaxial weaving is not for the faint of heart. It took me several attempts and a bit of humiliation when I saw participants in my course doing them, and I couldn't figure it out myself. Finally, with the help of a student who wrote instructions with photos for me, I figured it out. And I'm proud to have written my own instructions now that will hopefully demystify the process for you. There are just a few more slides. In addition to the 30 weaving projects, I've included 3 additional projects to showcase your weavings in unique ways. A note card, an album to house your weavings, and this lantern. And this is a different lantern structure than we'll be making today, so you have a chance to make another kind. The final chapter features a sampling of weavings by contemporary artists who incorporate paper weaving into their practice. These works are as varied as their materials, ranging from found posters to discarded library items to 2- and 3-dimensional works of art. There are many artists weaving paper today. If you go on Instagram, you'll just find thousands of examples. The back of the book includes a glossary. I had to make up some words about paper weaving. A resource list featuring a few templates, weaving and paper resources, a suggested reading list, information about all of the artwork and the artists who are featured in the book, and an index, which I love and have already referred to several times. Many craft books do not feature an index, and I'm so grateful to Story Publishing for adding them to their books. I'd like to end this section with another reading from the book. Weaving is a metaphor for so many things in life. When I create art, it is intertwined with questions I ponder in the spaces I inhabit as an artist, a family member, in the various communities I belong to, and on our planet. Mobius Map weaves together maps and visions for the world that I collected from the paper community. I sent out a call for 1-inch wide map strips and received town, city, country, continent, and world maps featuring various types of navigation aids: aeronautical, trail, migration pattern, tide, and current. Each contributor included a handwritten vision for the world on the back of their map strip in a variety of languages. The maps are woven together, rendering the visions only partly visible, a metaphor for how hard it is to come to global understanding. Among the visions I received, seeing a world that embraces diversity, safety for the next generation, putting women on the map, economic equity across the globe. As I wove the maps together, I pondered how we use maps to help us find our way and make sense of our world. As the weaving grew, I twisted the length of the woven maps into a Mobius strip, an infinite loop. If you follow the crocheted strand that is woven through the center line of the piece, you end up where you started. There is no front or back, top or bottom. We humans are all on this wild ride, circling through time and space together. It is my hope that we will gain empathy for what others are facing by sharing and reading each other's visions and sustain our planet as we journey into the future. Okay. Okay, I just wanted to mention, and then I'm gonna have Ali Monsi from the publicity director at Story Publishing come on and talk about where you can get the book worldwide. But you can purchase from me. Thank you to everyone who has done that already. As I mentioned earlier, I've shipped all of the orders except for a couple that came in the last few days. But if you want to get it from me, I will autograph it, but I want to support bookstores and all places that sell the book. I do have an option for you to purchase the book with a paper kit and a weaving tool. That's on my website. So you can buy just the book or the book, paper kit, and weaving tool. And I can't separate those items. I don't want to get into fulfillment too much. I'm just doing this now around the publication. We'll probably be offering these for sale um, through the beginning of my Weave Through Winter online class. I do want to mention that weaving tool is a specialty item. It's from Germany. It is not easy to get in America. My daughter happens to be in Germany now, so she is bringing them over for me every time she comes. And but Washi Arts, which is listed as a link in the chat, does carry just the weaving tool. And you might want to buy some paper with it because the shipping is almost as expensive as just the tool, but it's totally worth it. It's a cool tool. And I'm going to show it to you in a moment. And here's Allie, Director of Publicity at Story.
Hi, everyone. I'm Allie. I think Helen has said it all that, of course, her book is available directly on her website with that nice bundle weaving tool. But you can also get it at your local bookstore. I love everyone chiming in the chat with their local bookstore. If your store doesn't have it, you can certainly request that they order it for you, and that really does help get the book on shelves as well. And there's also examples here of other retailers that you can get it from. Of course, it's at Amazon and Barnes and Noble. And if you're so inclined, if you do get the book and love it, please do leave Helen a review. You can leave a review on Amazon, whether or not you got it on Amazon. You can also leave a review on Goodreads. All of the kind words really help Helen. So thank you, everyone, for being here and for supporting Weaving with Paper. Over to you, Helen.
Thank you. Okay, now we're going to go to my hands. Okay, sorry. I forgot to stop the screen share. Can you spotlight my hands?
Yes, there.
So I just want to show you, if you order the book from me, I'm taping the weaving tool on the side so that it doesn't get damaged. I'm going to show it in action in just a second. And then this is the paper kit. It comes with 30 different papers in all different sizes. And every kit is different. I have been going through my paper stash, cutting papers and ordering fun papers as well. Okay, and I just wanted to show you the album. This is one of the projects in the book. It's kind of a woven spine, and then you could put your weavings in this album. So that's just another project in the book. And then I wanted to mention that there are a few templates. Some of the projects seem like templates would be helpful. So there's a packet that you can download. The link is in the book, and it tells you on when you need them. You'll be guided in the book. So there's some templates that you can print out and use to assist you with the weavings. Okay, let me just show you this weaving tool. So it is this cool metal tool that has this little pincher on the end. And I've seen a picture of this from an old weaving kit. I'm going to say these were invented in Germany because that's where you can find them today. Way back when. I'm not sure what year. I'd love to know if anybody happens to know. But I saw a picture with a weaving kit it was American publisher, so maybe from the late 1900s. And I don't know, it was probably invented before that. But anyways, here you take the end of the tool that's flat and you slip it through your weaving. I just happen to have a 2-strip weaving here, but you could use this for much more elaborate weavings. And you clip your paper strip on the end and pull it through. So it's a really cool tool. All right, now we're going to do our weaving. So let me just get set up here. Okay, so we're gonna make a lantern. And we are going to weave just one panel, but I'll talk about how you can weave into more than one panel. So you should have 2 pieces of paper. I told you to bring 2 that are the same size. One of mine's a little different. And we're going to cut the second one. So one of them is your base, and you're just going to choose which one you want to use as your base. And then the other one we will weave into the base. And let me just say that contrast is good in choosing paper. I talk a lot about choosing paper in the book. It is tricky. Sometimes you think 2 papers are going to look great together, and when you weave them, they don't, and then vice versa can happen. So you can see I have a plain paper with a pattern paper for this one. And here's one. It's just, I don't know, it's just a little busy with the map. But again, I have pattern and plain. You could just have black and white, 2 colors. And today I'm going to use this Japanese paper, and then this is an origami paper. So it can be helpful if one's translucent because we want light to come through, but sometimes when you cut these windows, light comes through. So we're going to see what happens, and you'll learn how to make this, and you can try it again. So I see this as a model. So I'm going to work fairly quickly, and this is being recorded, so if you miss any steps, you can come back. So you're going to take your sheet of paper and put it face down if it has anything on it. Mine is pretty much the same on both sides, but we'll start with it face down if that's relevant. We're going to fold it in half the short way. Now, there's lots of things about paper weight as well. Several of you emailed me asking about that. I talk about this in the book too. I'm not using a heavy cardstock for this particular project. And for weaving in general, I would say magazine paper is like the perfect weight. You can weave thicker, you can weave thinner, but that's about the easiest weight. And then having 2 papers that are similar in weight, it seems they weave together better. Okay, so now we're going to unfold that. No, sorry, keep it folded. I got to follow my own directions. Fold in half so you've got quarters. Sometimes this corner is a little funky. You need to help it fold. I had a bone folder as optional. If you have a bone folder, you can crispen your folds. Okay, now we're going to unfold just to this point, so it's still folded in half like this. And I'm going to fold a approximate 1/2 inch. You don't need to measure this. We're going to fold seams on the 2 sides. So just start on one side. Let's see. No, I don't think it matters which way it's oriented. You're going to fold about a 1/2 inch in. If for some reason your paper is too thick to fold because it's doubled, you could take your ruler and your bone folder and score that before folding. Okay, so that's 2 layers I've just folded. Now I want the same size seam on the other side. And an easy way to do that is to, okay, now I'm going to reverse. We're going to need to reverse some of these folds. So I want to get it like this. So I'm going to fold it in half. So that seam that I just folded looks like this. When you write a book, you have to come up with better verbiage than what I'm saying. So it looks like this. Sometimes it's so complicated, though, to write the words that I just say refer to the photo. Okay, now what I'm going to do is turn this over any which way, but I'm going to use that information of where that fold was. Fold my other seam right on top of it. Okay, so I've got the 2. These are going to become the seams of the lantern. I'll give you a moment. But when you're done with that, we're going to open this all the way back up, all the way to the beginning letter size sheet. And now we're going to cut between the seams. Now I'm going to make some marks on mine. You don't need to do this. I'm just doing it so you have a visual cue. So you do not want to cut here and here. You want to cut between those 2 seam folds. Okay, so I'm going to take my ruler and my X-Acto knife. I'm going to cut a straight line just between those lines, so don't cut all the way through. So now I've got this. I'll give you a moment to catch up. Okay, now we're going to take our second paper that we're going to weave in, and we're going to cut it to the size of 1 panel. Oh, first, just, you see, this is our lantern structure, okay? But we're going to weave first. So we want our paper cut to the size of 1 panel, not counting the seam. I'm going to write down here what my size is. If you're using 8.5 by 11, it will be the same, but you could also just measure your own. That's the best way always, is to measure your actual object, because what if maybe this was accidentally 8 by 10 instead of 8.5? You could also take your paper and just make a mark of how you're going to cut it. But this is 3 5/8 inches wide by 5.5 inches tall. I think we have some international people here, so it's not likely, though, that you would have the same 8.5 by 11. So take this with a grain of salt, these measurements, right? 9.2 times 14. Okay, so we want to cut our sheet. Mine has an image on it. This is going to be distorted because of the weaving, but I'm going to choose, which part of the sheet I want. And I'm going to cut that out on my cutting mat. So 3, 1, 2. I always keep a box of strips. One of the last projects in the book is called Variety, and it prompts you to just use random strips of paper. You can come up with some really cool weavings that way. Okay, so I'm cutting this to that size. Yay, I did it right. Okay, so it's the same size as one panel between the folds and top and bottom. Okay, and then I'll let you catch up, but I'll just talk for a moment. So now we're going to cut. So in paper weaving or in traditional cloth weaving, there's a warp and a weft, and that is, the horizontal and the vertical strips. And that some people might argue with me that those words aren't proper, horizontal and vertical. But anyways, they're perpendicular to each other. In paper weaving, you have so many possibilities because you can cut paper in many ways, and you're not on a loom that requires your warp to be a certain way. So, but I use those terms, warp and weft, and we're going to cut warp slits into our larger sheet, and then we're going to cut our weft piece into weft strips, and then we'll weave them together. I see a question about my X-Acto. It just says X-Acto on it. I got this from Dick Blick. I don't know what it's called. Okay, so now we're going to start with our warp paper. I have it open all the way. You could weave into any section. I'm going to recommend that you just do what I do, because sometimes when you try to do something different, it can get really confusing. So I am going to cut my slits. I'm going to pre-draw them just so you see them. You can draw them too, but you will have pencil lines on there if you do that. I'm just doing it so you see what I'm doing. I'm going to draw these lines between the folds. So here's my middle fold. Here's my side seam fold. And I'm going to do some wiggly lines. This is one thing I discovered with paper weaving, that you don't have to measure, and it's really interesting. So using a ruler and measuring and being precise, I did that for a long time. And then I was like, oh, this is so free. And you get these interesting shapes. So I have just 4 lines, so I will have 5 sections. So do that. You can pre-draw them or you can just cut them. So now I'm going to cut. Again, I'm just cutting between those 2 folds. And I'm not going to bother erasing just for the sake of time, but if you have any marks, you would erase them after you cut. So see, I've got those slits. I am working on the front. You could work on the back. So yeah, when you weave this in, it's gonna be more important which is the front or the back. I'm just working right on the front. I saw a question in the chat. Kathy found my X-Acto knife on Dick Blick. Thank you, Kathleen. Catherine. Okay. Um, okay, so now we have to have our strips perpendicular to our slits. So I am going to, I'm going to turn this over because this is solid on the other side. It'll just be easier for you to see. This is the back. I'm going to cut just three lines and I'll get 4 pieces. So I'm just going to do wiggly lines too. You could pre-draw these. You don't want too many pieces because you're going to have to weave those, and then also gluing the windows. I mean, cutting the windows becomes more complicated when you have too many pieces. So now I'm going to turn these over. You want to keep these in order. So if you did them on the front, that's easier. You don't have to flip them over. I'm kind of racing here. We have 10 minutes. I want to 9 minutes. Okay, so I have these in order, and now I'm going to weave them. And so this is the front. I'm weaving on the front, and it really doesn't matter whether you start with under or over. I'm going to start over and go under, over, under, over. Now I could use my weaving tool, but it's a little complicated with curves. So I also like to use the tip of my X-Acto to move pieces around. So you'll see me doing that. And see, that's going to fit right into there, right up on that seam. So now we'll just spend a couple minutes weaving. So the next piece goes the opposite. This was over, so I start under, over, under, over. You can lift your weaving if you need to, turn it over. And now I'm going to push these together. Depending on your paper thickness, you might not be able to get them quite pushed up together. My papers are fairly thin, but there's something called take up that happens. And I'll talk about that more when we get to the last strip. I'm going to weave my third strip. Nancy, it says there's a view button in the upper right-hand corner, and you need to have that view speaker, and then you'll see my screen larger. Okay. I see some questions about the shapes of the strips. You know, all these variations are mentioned in the book. Yes, you can cut your strips in multitude of ways. They could have been straight, they could have been diagonal. I just like curves. Okay, so whether you're done weaving or not, I want you to watch me now, because sometimes getting this last strip in is tricky. You can set it there and see if it's going to fit. I can see mine will fit. If it's overhanging, like over the seam, just take your ruler and cut off whatever amount it's overhanging on the straight edge. So you can make your strips smaller. There's 3 ways to address this situation. You can also lengthen your slits, but I don't recommend that here because that seam is it's pretty tiny and I might accidentally cut. And then there's a method called paper gymnastics. And this is all described in the book. Where, like, look, if I started down here, because I have this curve, it's too wide to fit in the slit here. But I can use the extra space. And often I turn it over when I get to the back. So this is going to end up like this. I can stick this in here and see I have this extra space behind this strip. I can pull it to where it needs to be, and then the slit should be just the right width. See? And then here, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to use this extra space. I'm going to actually flip my whole strip upside down and pull it into place. And then sometimes it's just fine. This next one will fit exactly. So there are lots of little tips and tricks for paper weaving. And I tried to cover them in the book. We'll get that last one in. Okay, we have a couple more steps. Gonna be racing to the end here. So I want to show you, you can keep weaving, but if you can take a peek up at me, this is a plastic placemat. So this is the kind of material that you need for cutting windows because we're going to slip it in between the layers and it acts like a cutting mat. So this is like something you can get at the dollar store, at your local Walmart, that kind of store. And I would use scissors. I forgot to bring a pair of scissors to cut this. And you want to cut it into a shape that is about 5 inches long, 2 inches at one end, and a half inch at the other end. And once you start doing this, you'll figure out what you need. I have several different sizes. I'm going to round both ends. This is something I learned from a student. My hands froze. Can you hear me?
Yeah, no, I can hear you, but it froze on my end too, so I think it's coming from you.
Okay. I see there's a message on my phone. Maybe if I click that. Oh no. Any ideas of what I should do?
Maybe, oh, here, you just moved. It just moved.
Ah,
Phew, phew.
okay. Okay, so I'm gonna round all these edges, corners. Okay, now I'm gonna, before we cut windows, we need to glue our ends. So I'm gonna go quickly back to my weaving. I'm using glue stick today. I often use PVA glue with a brush or a glue applicator. But you just want to glue down all of these loose ends. And there are ways to cut windows everywhere, but we're not worrying about that today. We are just going to glue down. I'm going to start at the top. I have 2 loose ends at the top. I'm just flipping them over, putting glue on them, flipping them back. And then there's 2 loose ones at the bottom. And then I'll have 4 more on the other side. So I flipped it over. I'm going to apply glue here. On all of these, the ends of all the strips. Okay, and in an ideal world, you'd like let that dry for a little bit. Maybe put it under some weight. Yeah. Randy says she even likes the other side. Right. So I always turn my weaving over because sometimes something happens on the back that you just weren't even expecting. And this happens to be a double-sided paper that has, color on both sides. Some papers have print on both sides, so that's another fun element. Okay, yes, there's a replay. If you're behind, I will send you the replay probably later this afternoon. Okay, so I want to show you cutting windows. So I'm going to take my plastic material and I'm going to think for a minute, which paper do I want windows cut in? And I'm actually going to show you cutting in both because you can do that. And like my example here has windows cut in both papers. But maybe if one of your papers is more translucent, you would cut the windows into the other paper so that you see more of the translucent paper. Okay, this is, I've been doing this for a lot of years, so I have a familiarity with it. You're just exploring today. So I'm going to reveal more of my white. So I slip this in between the layers and I'm going to push it in as far as it'll go. And now I can cut because I've got this cutting mat, but I need to be careful not to cut where the cutting mat isn't. So I often swivel this as I'm working. And you can cut any shape window you want. I often just follow the shape of the strips that are woven. It just makes a nice design when you do that. Now I'm going to be removing more of my image, like the trees and the people here, by cutting that out. So it might have been interesting to do the other. So I'm just going to work my way, do a few more. This is slow and methodical. Again, I've done this many times. And then I can also cut into the white paper. So I can slip my cutting mat the other way, vertically, and cut a window in the white. So you can cut as many windows as you want or just a few. So there are lots of variations. So now I revealed more of the image by cutting a window. And here I reveal more of the white paper. So now I just want to keep moving. I'm sorry, this is taking a little longer than I anticipated. To finish your lantern, and you do not have to do this right now, but I want to show you how to. And in fact, you could still cut windows after you assemble the whole thing because you could work on it like this. And you can cut, if you want to cut into more than one panel, I would recommend this one. You do the exact same thing as this one. This one, if you wanted to cut into all 4 panels, and it's possible, but you need to be careful that you stagger your slits into this paper so you don't interfere with that fold. It's important structurally that that fold holds. Okay, so the last thing then is just you can use double-sided tape or glue. I'm going to just use glue. And I'm going to put glue just on those 2 seams. It doesn't matter. 2 parallel seams. Okay. If I do it this way, these 2 seams, then I can just flip this down and they will adhere right where they need to. Okay. This is like a 1-sheet book structure. Some of you have probably folded. I just changed the proportion to have this tiny seams. And then you can fold this and kind of refold to crease all the parts how you want, so that these kind of push out and these, you get the box shape. And before I leave my hands, I want to show you a couple of different lights. And I put some of them in the chat. So this is a puck light. These are like the ones that you put underneath your counters in the kitchen to add light, and you just tap them on and off. This gives the most light for this size lantern, okay? I have a couple of favorite small, tiny ones, which some of you might already have because you've taken classes with me. And these are the two. I put these in the chat. This one I can get at a hardware store, Walmart. Lots of stores carry puck lights in packages. This is a battery operated tea light that you twist on. The particular one that I put in the chat, I think it gives off the most light. There are so many different kinds of these, but this one gives off a lot of light. And then there are fairy lights. And this particular version, I gave you a link, I think, to this one, has 3 different ways. It flickers two ways, or it just stays on. So you could just put something like this inside and kind of tease these apart. So those are the lights that I like. And yeah, I hope you got enough to be able to complete your lantern. And I'm hoping a couple of you maybe did, that we can see. But we got to do the giveaway. So let me
Did you,
what?
you want to show the prizes first?
Yeah, show my face.
Yeah.
Okay, so Washi Arts is a wonderful paper supplier. They are in the chat. I mentioned them. They carry the weaving tool. They've given me 2 packs of paper. And so I'm raffling off. Sorry, I've set things all over the place. Okay. So the first prize will be the book and a weaving tool. And then 2 more prizes will be the book, the weaving tool, and the kit from Washi Arts. Okay, so I've got this cool app called Wheel of Names. I'm going to share my screen. Oops, where'd it go? Here we go. Okay, all of the names of everyone who registered, almost 600 people, are here. You can't even see them because there's so many on the wheel. So I'm going to click, and this will be for the book with the weaving tool. And you have to be here. If you're not here, if you are here, please unmute yourself when you see your name. Otherwise, I'll spin again. TZ, are you here? Okay, I'm going to spin again. How about Inez? Okay, bummer. Last time we did this, we had like a...
Yes, I
Här är
hear.
100
Oh.
någonting.
Okay, wait.
I'm here.
Okay,
Okay. Who was sorry, let me
that was Inez.
Ines Wallenberg.
Okay,
Ines.
Inez.
Okay.
Okay, you
Okay.
win the book and the tool. And my email address is in the chat. If you could email me your mailing address.
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Are you in the US? I hate to ask this. I should
No, I'm in Sweden.
Okay. I can't ship international. I'm sorry. It's so
Okay,
expensive.
okay.
But I'm gonna
Can
write.
I buy this book or
You can buy it. You should be able to find it on Amazon in Sweden.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry. I should have said
Yeah.
at the beginning that it's costs like 3 times the price of the book to ship internationally right now. So that's why I can't do it. Gail, are you here?
I am here. I cannot believe it. Hi, Helen.
Hi. Okay, and I know you purchased a copy. If you want me to send this to someone else, just send me an
I
email.
I would love to give it to a gift to a friend
Okay,
who has is new to your work and is coming to Codex this year. So
awesome. Okay, congratulations. All
thank
right.
you so much.
Yeah, let me spin again now. Now this is for the second prize, which is the book, the tool, and the paper. Laurel, are you here?
I am here.
Awesome.
I bought your book, but I'll give it as a present.
Okay, so just if you would send me an email, my email address is in the chat, and otherwise I'll reach out to you of where you want me to ship it, to you or
You can ship it to me and then I'll give it to someone.
okay. If you could still send me a note. I know I already probably shipped to you, but that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. It was fun.
Okay. All right. Prize number 3, a book, a tool, and the paper. Dale, Emma,
Woohoo! I'm here. Thank you.
awesome. Okay, ditto. You heard what I just said. So,
Yeah, yeah. I'll send you an email.
all right. Thanks. Congratulations.
You. Wow.
Wh-
All
Where,
right, everybody,
where is your email?
in the chat.
In the
It's in
chat.
it's in the list of links. I'm
List of
going to drop
links.
it in again.
Okay. I have your emails too, so I can look you up if you don't get that. Okay. So I think, let's see.
Do you want to hold up your finished lantern with the light that's on the shelf, or else your new one? So they'd like to see a finished lantern.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So this is the one that I was promoting the workshop with. This is the other one that I was just working on. And yeah, if I don't want to keep Beth over time, so I'm going to switch the order. Beth is going to do one more reading to
Mhm.
close out this session, but anyone that can stay on for a few photos, I would appreciate that. And of your lanterns and you holding the book. And then I'll stay on a little longer as well for anyone that wants to chit chat. So Beth,
All right. Sorry about that phone. I made a lantern. That's fun.
okay,
Um,
get
and
you
I'm
on
going
the
to have
screen.
my little 9-year-old neighbor make one with me too. I've changed my reading to make it shorter, and I decided since you were talking about sheet music or showed an image of sheet music, in my life in paper, I look at all the different elements that hold us, whether they're recipes or sewing patterns or paper doilies or wills or baby books, etc. And I write something very personal about that thing, and then I write a short history or some philosophical something about it as the girding for each of these elements. So because it's the holiday time, and this one is related to Christmas, but it's a holiday time, this one's called Sheet Music. And again, this is the very personal, memoiristic look at sheet music in my life. Take the sacred as Christmas Eve. My brother standing tall and dirty blonde and thin behind my seated auburn father. My brother playing his oboe, my father his piano. Good King Wenceslas, and the snow lay round. Certain poor shepherds in the deep, a little town where dark streets shineth, the divine high C sharp. Lower the lights to a dim. Let my brother nod and let him breathe. His oboe reed will sweeten. Let my father run his fingers up and down the Steinway keys, his right hand rising quick to flick the music forward, his left hand with his gold wedding band kept faithful to its octave. Nothing lost, wholly gained. My father and my brother, they play. Staff and clefs, treble and bass, notes stemmed and flagged, whole and halved and quartered, dotted, tied. My brother growing thinner, my father's foot working the softening, sustaining pedals, and again my brother breathes, and my father lifts his hand, flick. The air is salty with the afterfry of smelts. The tree is heavy with adornment. The stockings are hung by the chimney with care. There is a father and a son and their sheet music. There are two sisters and a mother. Keep the memory whole, uncomplicated. Don't leave this home for any other.
Thank you so much, Beth. Wonderful. Okay. All right. So now let's try and grab some screenshots. So if you attend Zooms with me a lot, we're not going to show individually. There's just too many people. So what I want you to do, go up to view gallery so you can see. And Lori unspotlight me. And then hold up your lantern. And let us see your face too. Don't hold it in front of your face. And just take a look. Beautiful. And we're taking some screenshots, so just hang on a moment. You can scroll through with one hand, hold your lantern with the other. Ooh, page 2 is really good. Solid people. Oh, we're gonna do the book next. But if you didn't make a lantern and hold the book up, that's fine.
Yeah.
Look at these. They're fantastic. Look at those
Yeah,
papers.
nice.
Wendy, you have an amazing paper. Wow.
Mhm.
Gina did
Yeah.
something, just a small little window. Wonderful.
If you
Thank
spotlight the people, maybe we can see them too.
you. We don't have time, and there's too many people. So you need to go to gallery view and you can see the small versions. Now, I also put
Didn't
in
get to finish it,
a
but
link in the chat in my group of links. I ask you to post on Instagram and you could tag me and Story Publishing. That would be wonderful. Okay, did we get enough screenshots, people? Hopefully.
I think so.
Okay. So now let's hold up our copies of the book. And thank you to everyone who has a copy. Sweet. Thank you to everyone who came today. This is so fun. And yeah, share your light with the world. And one way you could do that is, I know some people aren't on social media, but post on social media, tag me and Story Publishing. That way people will learn about the book. And yeah, it was a pleasure working with you today. Sorry, I got a little rushed at the end. And I'm happy to stay on, but we're done with the formal presentation. But if anybody wants to stay on and ask me any questions or just hang out with me, you're welcome to do that.
Helen, best of luck with this beautiful book.
Thank you, Beth.
I'm gonna stop the recording.